Although climate change has been a naturally occurring process for millions of years, in recent times its rate has increased drastically due to the influence of human activities such as fossil fuel combustion, industrial processes, and waste management. Caribbean countries are extremely vulnerable to the negative impacts of climate change. In fact, island states, according to published scientific data, are projected to suffer the most from increasing temperatures and the resultant sea level rise. If carbon emissions continue unabated, projections are that global temperatures will rise by as much as 4 degrees Celsius by the end of the century. Globally, the discussion is to keep it at 2 degrees, but the Caribbean wants to limit it to 1.5 degrees and has thus been using the slogan 1.5 to stay alive. As such, the Caribbean, as part of the Alliance of Small Island States, has embarked on a sensitization drive leading with this slogan so that citizens of the islands and the world can join in to support and convince more developed nations to act accordingly. Now, there is no better time to lobby for unified agreement than when all the world's leaders are together. Small island states will be taking their 1.5 to Stay Alive campaign to the annual United Nations Climate Change Conference in Paris, France this year's end. The conference is called COP21, meaning the 21st Annual Conference of Parties. This meeting will be held from the 30th of November to the 11th of December. In the lead up to and during this momentous occasion, Choice TV will be providing you with updates on COP21, features on all the elements of this current pursuit of 1.5 to stay alive, and we will also go over the impact that climate change has on St. Lucia and, of course, our own island's mitigation efforts. In this first program, we focus on the Ministry of Sustainable Development's Disaster Vulnerability Reduction Project and a pilot program for climate resilience. Rehabilitation becomes a strain when vulnerable small island states like St. Lucia are met with frequently occurring devastating natural disasters. In order to reduce the risk of such recurring devastation, the local government has embarked on a climate change adaptation initiative called the Disaster Vulnerability Reduction Project, blended with a climate resilience pilot program. The initiative aims to ultimately establish more resilient infrastructure on island so that further natural disasters are less devastating. The project is comprised of 3 components: adaptation, facilitation, implementation, and financing. Communications Officer at the Ministry of Sustainable Development, Lucius Doxerie, has for the past year been going to various institutions including primary and secondary schools, essential services, the private sector, and non-profit organizations to spread the word about this initiative. He says while mitigation holds an important place in dealing with climate change, adaptation is as imperative for becoming resilient.
All of this is underpinned by the philosophy of building back better. So going forward, be it the Shock Bridge, be it the Marshall Riverbank Stabilization Project, be it the Dennery Polyclinic, all of these things must be done a lot better. Why better? Because the forecast, in as far as climate change is concerned, is that we can anticipate more severe weather events. So by that is meant more severe droughts, more severe floods, more severe hurricanes, and so on. So whatever that we are doing, it has to be done a lot better. Now, in terms, also as it speaks to implementation, if the government is putting down a project, say like, for example, the rehabilitation of a school, it must consider energy efficiency. How do you build that school to ensure that you get the most bang for your buck? The lighting has to be considered. You have to consider rainwater harvesting.
The research phase of the Disaster Vulnerability Reduction Project also includes review of the legislative framework of St. Lucia. In the financing phase, the project allows citizens, both household and corporate, the opportunity to tap into affordable loans to invest in resilience-building activities, which would in turn end extreme poverty and promote shared prosperity. Investment in works such as road rehabilitation and safe bridge construction would ensure continued access to markets, schools, and hospitals in the aftermath of adverse natural events such as a hurricane or high rainfall.
As part of this project, there is some, maybe like I think close to 12.5 million EC dollars that is going to be disbursed by the St. Lucia Development Bank. And it is going to allow for us, any one of us, whether you're a business person or householder, to obtain loans to undertake any initiative that will reduce your risk to disasters. And the key thing about this loan or the climate adaptation financing facility is that we're going to be getting that money at the lowest interest rates on the market. So this is the magnet, the attraction for us to be able to get those loans, but it must be geared towards any initiative that will reduce our risk to disasters.
Mr. Doxerie also shared his hopes for the outcome of the 21st Annual Conference of Parties in Paris, France in November 2015.
We are also appealing to St. Lucians here and abroad to look into COP21, support the government and people, our negotiators, not only in St. Lucia but throughout the region, hopefully so that we could get what we want out of it, which is a legally binding agreement. And note the emphasis on legally, to ensure that we can get assistance, monies to be able to help us in those small, vulnerable developing states to adapt to climate change.
The Disaster Vulnerability Reduction Project, which began in December 2014, is an undertaking of the government of St. Lucia with assistance from the World Bank. Do stay tuned to Choice TV for more on the 1.5 to Stay Alive campaign. I'm Jessy Leonce.